Hello and welcome to this revision video for how to write a film review in exam conditions. Here's an example question then that you might come across in the exam, and to be honest, this is one of the easier ones you could actually be set. Write a review for your school or college magazine based on a television show or film of your choice. Notice it defines the word review so you know what the task is. It makes clear the audience by telling you that it's a school or college magazine, and it gives you a topic to write about, a television show or film of your choice. The great thing about this particular question is that you can plan it in advance. This kind of question comes up fairly regularly, so it's probably a really good idea to have a good review planned already to write in the actual exam. Here's the exam criteria then. The top there is your grade 9, and about the band 3 is about to be grade 4 or grade 5. Look at some of the criteria there. You'll notice on the left hand side you've got clear understanding of purpose and format of the task, awareness of the reader or the audience, and on the right hand side you've got variety of sentence structures, range of punctuation, and of course spelling there. So it's assessing how effective you are writing for your target audience, but equally how technically accurate you are as well. After all, this is an English exam and it is a writing test. As normal, when we look at any writing task on the English language exam paper, we're looking for a couple of key factors. The text, the audience, and the purpose of the writing. To define these in a bit more detail then, the text or type is how you should set the writing out. Letters, for example, have lots of rules about how you should set them out. Reports and leaflets will make use of subheadings, and leaflets and articles might include images or diagrams, although obviously you wouldn't spend time in the test doing these. The audience are who you are writing for. You'll obviously adapt your tone and content depending on who this is. And lastly, the purpose. Why are you writing? For example, to inform, to persuade, to entertain, to comment, to explain, or to review. In this case, you're probably going to be mixing entertain with review. After all, no one's going to read a review if it isn't all that entertaining. When I typed into Google, what is a film review, one of the first things that came up is this poster here. So a film review is a short description of a film. It is written to give a brief description and evaluation of a movie. That is then saying some of the good things about it, as well as saying some bad things about it. You'll also notice there's a mini essay structure on the bottom there to kind of guide you roughly what you should write. As I said then, this is all about giving your opinion about a film or television show or even an event. Well, whatever you say, it's important to give a strong opinion. Look at some of these examples for the film Yesterday. None of them is just saying, oh yeah, yesterday was a good film, or an okay film, or even yesterday was a bad film. They're all wording it in an interesting, effective way. A simple structure to follow for your review then would be to start off by saying what the film's about and something about why it's supposed to be good. The second paragraph might well cover the plot and its synopsis, and equally the third paragraph might move on to say what is good about the film, and then what might disappoint, leaving you with a conclusion or verdict about the film as your last mini paragraph. That will give you a 5-paragraph structure then to guide you as you start this resource. Other top tips for how to make your review lively and exciting might include writing an interesting sentence starter using a non-finite verb or an ing word. For example, you wouldn't start off by starting with Spider-Man by Sam Raimi is. You might want to think about a much more interesting way of doing it, such as getting one of the world's favourite superheroes onto the big screen was always going to be a challenge. Another way of making your writing more exciting is by using expanded noun phrases, and lots of them. For example, Willem Dafoe spins a good yarn as the devilishly vengeful villain in The Green Goblin. You can see there's 2 adjectives in that sentence, devilishly vengeful rather than just the word villain. Describe your nouns then, make them sound much more engaging. It's also important to use a chatty or friendly style. Don't worry too much though, the CGI niggles of the middle don't detract from what's a brilliant blockbuster banquet. You'll also notice here there's plenty of alliteration being used. Don't detract, brilliant blockbuster, and other examples already mentioned. You can start sentences with and but. After all, you are writing for impact. It's informal and chatty in the way you are writing. So an example might be, but that's not all. Raimi has also given Spidey a suitable sob-worthy backstory. ... Notice each one of these sentences exaggerates an existing opinion to make this film sound wonderful or amazing, or perhaps not quite so good. Let's now take a look at this internet review of the recent film Wonder Woman 84. Let's take a look at our top tips and see how many are actually being used.
Wonder Woman 1984 was once again directed by Patty Jenkins, and it was also co-written by her this time around. She hasn't had a writing credit since 2003's excellent film Monster, so it was cool to see her take on a lot more control this time, and I was very curious to see how that would go. Gal Gadot returns once again as Diana Prince, and this time around Pedro Pascal plays Maxwell Lord, an oil baron who's losing all of his money and resources. And when he comes across the ability to grant a bunch of wishes, he begins to endanger the world. Meanwhile, Kristen Wiig plays Barbara Minerva, a shy, timid woman who wishes to not be shy or timid. And Chris Pine is back as Steve Trevor, even though he died in the last movie, and this film takes place many decades later, so something weird's clearly going on. I love the first film by Patty Jenkins. I think she brought a lot of heart, a lot of energy to that movie. It was action-packed. It was absolutely thrilling. It surprised me so much because I didn't know if a Wonder Woman movie was going to work, and she really knocked it out of the park. I couldn't wait to see what she would do with the sequel, and I fully 100% trusted her. I actually got a screener link for this movie like 4 days ago, and I watched it then. I could have reviewed it before Christmas, before it dropped on HBO Max, and I just didn't want to, because I realized that I had so much I wanted to talk about, and all of them involved spoilers, and I didn't want to make another surface level review where I try to dance around subjects that I really want to discuss, because I have, unfortunately, quite a bit of issues with Wonder Woman 1984. I found this movie to be a massive letdown and extremely disappointing, even though there are certainly good things in the film, and it's not by any means a disaster of a terrible movie, but I just didn't like it, and it pains me to say that. I really, really wanted to love this movie, but I thought it was pretty bad. Since it has dropped on HBO Max yesterday on Christmas Day, and since anyone with an HBO Max account has access to this movie, I am going to talk about spoilers. So if you don't want to know about spoilers, I've already expressed my disappointment in the film. If you still want to see the movie and you do, you can come back and watch the rest of this review for all of those who have seen the movie. Let's talk about why this film didn't work for me. The film opens.
As you can see, he does talk a bit about the plot, says about his enthusiasm, but equally reveals he wasn't overly keen on the end product. He didn't just say the film's a good or bad film, he found ways to exaggerate his own emotions or his own opinions based around what he saw. Let's take a look at another example then. This is a fairly basic example. It uses a fairly traditional film format with the title at the top, the cast, then director, then brief synopsis before reviewing the actual film. Each paragraph is very short, maybe 2 or 3 sentences long, so this wouldn't grade highly for the exam board. It's very much more basic, and it isn't overly exaggerating any of the key points. It is using some high-level vocabulary, such as secluded or hiatus. However, in general, this isn't an overly clever review. It isn't overly engaging for its audience or reader. So this would be something like a grade 3, possibly low grade 4 response. Many of the top tips on the right hand side aren't really used here. Let's look at example number 2. This one's a little bit better. You can see there's commas being used here. The tone of voice is a bit more chatty, and you can see that this writer's definitely tried to engage the audience. Most of the paragraphs are still around about the same length though, which means they become boring after a while. In fact, you could even question whether this person even knew how to use paragraphs, as everyone seems to be about the same length, roughly 3 to 4 lines long. This means then the actual review has a lack of detail that would need to be expanded on if this was to do better than a very low level 5. Example number 3 is based around Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. As you can see, this varies its paragraphs a little bit better. It uses the same kind of level punctuation and fairly high level vocabulary, but doesn't go out of its way to really go into detail about the film itself, nor does it use maybe 3 or 4 of the top tips on the right hand side. It could again be a lot more engaging, a lot more interesting to read, and equally a bit more emotive in terms of the opinion being given. Now let's look at another film review from the internet and how this one is actually put together. This man here is going to tell you some top tips how to write a review and talk you through how best to use them with some examples.
Each person could find what he or she needs in a movie. Humor, adrenaline, drama, love, a journey back through time, or an alternate reality. So, writing a movie review seems to be one of the most interesting assignments for most students. However, enjoying a good film in the evening and watching it solely for the purpose of writing a review are not quite the same. Hey everyone, I'm Mark with EssayPro.com, and our expert writers came up with a video aimed to teach you how to avoid common mistakes and how to write an excellent movie review. Without further ado, let's start by answering the basic question. What is a movie review? Generally, a movie review is a genre of art criticism and journalism. It is a complex overview, usually made by a professional critic, on films that have just been released to help decide what film to watch. Professional reviews differ from those made by amateurs. They are more structured, sharper, more detailed, but at the same time more compact in wording. In a professional movie review, you will always find awareness of the film's director or directors, their previous works and previous filmmakers' pictures, as well as a deep understanding of different film genres and classics for each of them, and filming techniques and modern trends.
There, all caught up.
Ooh. Though you can find a lot of reviews that are made by ordinary movie fans, and sometimes they can end up being more informative and useful than a professional one. The key to writing an outstanding movie review is understanding its purpose. So keep your goals in mind while writing. Share some information about characters, relations, and events, but don't tell the whole story. Reading the review shouldn't replace watching the film, yet you are free to mention the most important moments or turning points that make the film worth watching. Analyze the film in general and in certain aspects, such as the acting, the work of the director, theme, music, and special effects. Make a conclusion if the main idea of the film was duly implemented. Try to be objective and detailed in your evaluations. Share your opinion. Describe your feelings during and after watching the movie and specify what you liked and what you didn't like. Provide your general impression about the film based on examples, descriptions, and comparisons to enable readers to make their own decisions. Give a recommendation. Try not to be categorical, but let your readers know what they can expect from the film and who might find it interesting. Say if it matches an official film description and declared genre, why it might be worth watching, and what its weaknesses are. Entertain the reader. Reading movie reviews is actually kind of fun in itself. We've, as a society, gotten used to using this option before choosing a film to watch. Try to make an easy-to-read review and write in an interesting manner. Now let's move to a step-by-step guide on how to write a movie review. 1. Choose a film. If you have a choice, think carefully about what film you would like to analyze. Surely most of us would choose one of our favorites. Though it's not obligatory to write a review on tone of the films you like, you may write about one you don't like and explain why. Such an approach could be different and refreshing and could bring you extra credit. 2. Watch the movie. Even if you've seen it 100 times, watch it again in order to understand new details and to understand the characters and their motives better. We recommend watching a film at least 2 or better yet 3 times. While watching it for the first time, we usually concentrate on the main heroes, their storyline, and emotions. The second time around, it usually helps you notice the details of minor characters and their stories, such as music, timelines, costumes, decorations, and locations. All these things contribute to how you perceive the movie and your critique. 3. Make notes. Keep a paper and pen near you to write down things you notice in the film or to note your ideas while watching or right after it. Write your notes immediately once an idea comes to mind. 4. Research the movie. Filming is a long and complicated process that involves many people, which usually makes the shooting process an interesting story in itself. Find out as much as possible about it. Is it an original scenario, or a retelling, or a remake? Is the plot based on a book? What was the available budget? How has the cast changed in the process? Pick out 2 or 3 of the most impressive facts about production and share them in your work.
Goal for you, I'll recite in verse. Return the jewel and lift the curse.
5. Analyze the movie. Think about everything you saw in the movie and determine your impressions of the film. Does the picture involve any social context? What was the original idea for the film and how successful were the producers at implementing them? Pay attention to how it was filmed and what techniques were used. For example, in Psycho, produced and directed by Alfred Hitchcock, we can definitely notice an unusual zoom effect called vertigo. Think of which actor impressed you the most and why. Compare this role with his or her previous works. Discuss the movie you've chosen with your friends or family to get fresh ideas to support your opinion, or for another point of view. 6. Draft a review outline. A plan is always a good idea and could lead to half of your success. Before writing the actual movie review, make an outline of your work to structure all your thoughts and arguments. Read further to get an example of a movie review outline. 7. Come up with a catchy title. My review for Titanic sounds boring. Think of an intriguing or impressive title like Why Taking a Cruise is Not Always a Good Idea. Make your readers want to read further. 8. Write your review. Now, after you've done your research and prepared your work, it's time to compose everything together and write a review. Put all your thoughts and arguments together and stick to the outline you wrote before. Make a general overview of the film so that readers are able to understand what problems might arise from it, but don't spoil the outcome, as they might not have seen the movie yet. Write main points that you liked and ones that you didn't. Reinforce your thoughts with evidence and examples. Comment on the originality of the movie and compare it with other films of the same genre, films with the same topic, or films directed by the same person. 9. Edit your final draft. Once you've written your review, take a rest. A little pause before final reading and editing will help you look at it with a fresh outlook. Read your work several times. Check for spelling errors, grammatical mistakes, the sequence of presentation, compliance with the outline and professor's demands, and the format and style. Structuring is extremely useful in any type of paper, and a movie review is not an exception. A written outline will help you organize your thoughts properly, not to forget anything, and to actually end up writing it faster. Here's an example outline you may use. Introduction. In this part, you need to provide some general information about the picture. Title, release date, main actors, filmmakers, film company, and filming budget. Summary of the story. This is a short exposition of movie plot, characters, and their interaction. Analysis of the movie that includes analysis of the plot elements, starting point, rising action, and climax. Analysis of creative elements. Dialogues, characters, use of colors, camera techniques, mood, tone, symbols, costumes, or anything that contributes or takes away from the overall plot. Analysis of the topic and its implementation. Viewers' understanding of the topic, relevance of the topic, and comparison with other resembling works. Opinion. Your point of view supported with examples and facts from the story. Conclusion. Announce whether the filmmaker was successful in his or her purpose. Explain how the motion picture was helpful in providing a deeper understanding of the course topic. Some relevant examples can be found in our blog's article dedicated to this topic. Check them out for more in-depth understanding of the overall process.
As you can see then, this part of the test you could prepare for if you're willing to put the work in. Now let's take a look at a much higher level example. This one is based around Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Tim Burton. Immediately you'll notice quite a few of the top tips are used here. Deliciously dark and packed with candy-coloured visuals, Tim Burton's adaptation of Roald Dahl's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is an intoxicating endorphin rush. Freddie Highmore is engagingly winsome as one of 5 children who scores a ticket to the world's magnificent chocolate factory. But it's his Finding Neverland co-star Johnny Depp who steals the show as an oddball chocolatier. While the story is a little soft in the centre, his take on Willy Wonka is a richly layered treat. As you can see here, much higher level of language, much more verbose sentence structure, clearly indicating that the film reviewer liked the film, but not giving anything away either. The sentence structure is highly evolved, with lots of really interesting things that might engage you in the writing, and indeed the rest of the review if you were to read the rest of this page. A much higher level response than here. This will be about a grade 7 or a grade 8. Here then are top tips to write a film review that people want to actually read. Remember, you can plan this in advance. Watch a film at least once. Express your opinions and support your criticism. Consider your audience. Know your actors' portfolios. Call out directors, cinematographers and special effects. Do not spoil the end of the film. And of course, study the professionals. The more film reviews you read, the better off your own film review writing will become. Now here's a practice activity for you to do at home. Write a review of your favourite film or TV programme for a local newspaper. Remember, your local newspaper is for local villages, and many of those readers are likely to be middle-aged or so. So please think about what film or TV programme might be suitable for this age group. Do a bit of research, watch an episode or a film twice, if not 3 times, and then think about how best to communicate your ideas to your target audience. Once you've written your review, it's always a good idea to check the quality of your work. Here's one way of going about that. Select a couple of words or phrases that you'd either like to use in your review or you did use in your review. Think about what you actually meant in those phrases, and then think about the most effective sentence you can write using that word or phrase. Think about exaggerating the viewpoint each phrase might suggest. You also need to check how accurate you are in terms of apostrophes. There are 3 examples here, all of which use apostrophes incorrectly. Pause the video now to think how apostrophes should be correctly used in each example. Here's a recap, just in case you forgot. An apostrophe is used to indicate possession, or indeed to represent an omission. There are examples underneath in the box in yellow, talking through exactly how apostrophes should be used. If you're in any way unsure about apostrophes, please pause the video and read on in more depth. There is also a correct use of apostrophes there for 1, 2, 3 sections of somebody's answers, but unfortunately, yet again, some apostrophes have not been used. Using the box in yellow, have a read of the box in blue and see if you can correct the apostrophes that have not been used accurately here. Here's our last example then. This scored 20 out of 20 and so got a grade 9 in the actual exam. You can see this is a typed up response for an actual exam paper, and you can see the examiner's response at the bottom there. 7 and 13 equals a mark of 20 out of 20, and the exam board stated it is a sophisticated and confident review, assured use of audience and purpose, vocab choices are well judged, stylistic devices are used effectively. Take a read through of this example then, which is our grade 9 example. Now you've written your own review, you've seen many examples of how to write it, you've listened to a film clip that talks you through the kind of structure you might want to use. Please now check for the following skills in your own work and make sure that you've ticked all the boxes of a very high level review. Now lastly, take a look at your film review, rewrite it with a thesaurus in hand, ready then to check your word use and of course your apostrophes to make sure you are ready to write the best review in the exam possible. Once again, here's a copy of the exam criteria, most of which, if you've used this resource effectively, you will have hit. Thank you very much for listening. This has been your resource for how to write a film review in an exam. Thank you very much for listening.